Welcome back to the Oscar Project Podcast, the show where I discuss Oscar-nominated films year by year. I am your host, Jonathan Eaterberg, and today I'm bringing you an interview with Florian Maurice, Maxime Foltzer, and Estelle Bonnardel, three of the creators of the short film Revoir Mon Monde, which recently won the Gold Award at the 2024 Student Academy Awards. Before I jump into the interview, please be sure to subscribe to the show in your podcast player so you can get all the newest episodes as soon as they are released. If you like the interview and want to hear more, please consider leaving a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Florian Maurice, Maxime Foltzer, and Estelle Bonnardel are animators and artists who attended the MOPA school in France, completing their studies in 2023. They join me today on the podcast to talk about their short film, Revoir Mon Monde, which recently won the Gold Award in the animation category of the 2024 Student Academy Awards. Florian, Maxime, and Estelle, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Now, I really loved your short film, which tells a story of a man in a fish costume, of all things, trying to reach the woman he loves as the end of the world approaches. Tell me a little bit about where the idea for this film came from.
Well, I will go first for this one. I found inspiration in my own life experience. For example, I lost my father when I was 6, and sadly, it was kind of brutal and didn't have the chance to tell him goodbye. And like everybody had some romantic breakup. And for example, when I wrote the pitches, it was very hard for me to make the morning of breakup with my ex-girlfriend at this moment. And I know that when I'm writing pitches, I like to feed myself from all this kind of experience. So I was like everybody, we had some romantic breakup with people who were and are still dear to our hearts. And I don't know, I was like, how can I tell a story about saying goodbye to someone you love? And with the theme of the end of the world, it will be the most perfect things to speak about it. And when I wrote the pitches, I really wanted to work with Maxime and Estelle. And I was like, okay, so I think making a story with them about this and all the pictures, I already had the tone. It was really important for me to make funny and goofy films, even if the tone of the film can be really sad and hard. I mean, we're talking about the end of the world and the fact that you have to accept your own death. And I don't know, I was like, I want to tell a story who looks kind of like me. I mean, I can be funny and goofy. I don't know if Maxime and Estelle can say that. But I know that I can be someone very someone melancholic, and I can think about a lot of sad things, and I can be really emotional. But yeah, that's all.
Okay. So because it's our graduation movie, we had to form groups around ideas. And when I heard Florian's story idea, I was immediately hooked and I really wanted to work on it with him. Yeah, I thought it was really special and emotional.
Yeah, I'd like to add that it's the idea of the costume in the writing process came very late. Originally, the main character was only a guy in his world, a little bit disconnected from reality. And the problem was that we didn't have a lot of time to tell this story, so we had to find a way to show it visually. And also, I would say that the costume brought a lot more because it helps to define the comic direction that went along with the emotions. And for our film, it's also brought a lot of mystery about who this character is and what will happen to him,
Yeah, makes sense. And that brings me on to my next question. Florian, you already mentioned it a little bit, the blend of being a very serious topic, the end of the world, obviously, but also blending that with comic elements. And Estelle, I liked the fact that you said you were hooked on the story when you first read it, because the man is literally hooked on his fish costume in the film, which is one of the funniest moments, of course. How did you guys go about balancing the humor of moments like that with this very serious end of the world, trying to reach someone you love to say goodbye aspect?
Yeah, so I think the success of this film came from this mix between comedy, action, and the gravity of the end of the world. So during the writing process, it was really a big challenge because we had to find the right balance between jokes and the serious moments. I like to say that there were a lot of our initial ideas that were pretty bad, and we had to take them to the trash. But we tested a lot of them in storyboard and editing, and thanks to Florian and Astrid, who is our editor, we could decide what to keep. So I like to say that there was no magical recipe, but it was mostly a lot of trial and error. And I kind of have the feeling that we were on thin ice, and that the help of the teammates and their hindsight was very crucial for this blending, you know.
Yeah. And also, I think like the design of the fish costume in itself is like a comedic element. And when we created it with Florian, we really tried to keep in mind that it had to be like kind of a good balance between goofy and funny looking, also like still a bit cute and weird. And yeah, I think like his face is part of the comedy, I think.
Yeah, you almost get an expression from the fish that's not
Yeah.
even the expression of the person, but is still kind of transferred onto him as the character.
Yeah.
Now, you have some very ambitious elements in the film visually. You've got skyscrapers crumbling down. You've got space rocks of some sort crashing down to Earth. What were some of the biggest challenges in terms of creating this world visually?
So from a technical standpoint, creating a city in animation, it is very hard, because to make something that's like believable, you have to add so many details, and it takes so much work and time that we don't have.
Sure.
And otherwise it's going to feel like fake and not like lived in. And so we had to be like smart about crowds, especially because having people panicking and running around each shot, it was impossible because of the little production time we had. So we could only afford just one shot with a crowd, just to show that there is some people in this world we created. And then we had to like swap them with cars and just sound effects. And yeah, like the further we go in the film, the more apocalyptic it gets. And we use that to kind of like show less and less people. I think it was one of the challenges, thinking about the crowds and the people that were in the city.
Yeah, so as Estelle mentioned, the city is one of the hardest things to make in animation. And, you know, we were just doing a student short film, so we didn't not have a lot of time and no budget. So we had to use tricks to make these things happen. So, for example, during our film, the fish is racing through a big avenue. We didn't have the time to make enough assets, you know, to create this big avenue. So we had to make a smaller one with less assets, and then film it with different angles and use compositing to make it work. So it was kind of a lot of cheating, you know. The render times were also a big challenge, and as we wanted our film to be the most cinematic possible, we used a lot of lens effects from our render engines, and it was really, really time-consuming and resource-consuming. So yeah, we had to find a solution, like we had to render our film in a lower resolution and then upscale it in post. So yeah, and I'd say also that the VFX there were lots of VFX for this film, and I'd say that our VFX artist Quentin did a tremendous job to keeping that much effect, because for a student short film, I think it's a really big achievement. Yeah, it was alone on it, so yeah.
And even during for me and Astrid, it was kind of hard to us, because at the beginning we wrote everything we wanted into the screenplay, and then during the storyboarding part, we had to make sure that everything that we want to put into the film will be able to do for the rest of the team. And so, as Maxime said, we had to clean many ideas. Some was bad, some was good, but we was like, okay, we're only 6. We have to make a choice between all these ideas. For example, we wanted more buildings, skyscraper was falling, more effects. The film was more and more ambitious on the storyboarding and during the screenplay parts. But yeah, it was very challenging for us.
Sure, you have to be very selective of what you decide to go for.
Yes, everything was about the good balance.
Right.
Yeah.
And I noticed a few images throughout the film that reminded me of other films. Were there any specific films, disaster films specifically maybe, that you used as references when you were creating and storyboarding the film?
Yeah, of course. We watched a lot of extracts from various disasters films. So I remember we had scenes from 2012 in our mood board. If I remember correctly, there was also Ready Player One. I know it's not technically a disaster film, but the racing scene was felt very apocalyptic. Yeah, it was a huge reference for us. And Pacific Rim, because there are lots of kaiju that destroys buildings and in small in a big city. So yeah, it was I have it in mind. So yeah, Florian, do you want to add a reference?
Yeah, for example, a lot of people told us about Rogue One, specifically for the ending of the film with the big explosion. But we took this for a reference, most for the technical aspect, because the ending of the movie, the final scenes, was like a big challenge for us. We didn't know how to make it until like maybe 3 weeks or 1 month before the deadline. It was very hard for us to know how we would be able to make it. And at the first beginning, we wanted to create something more experimental. For example, everything was in link with the meteor. We wanted to make it look like a Clint painting. We wanted to add a lot of practical effects, like putting paint into the water,
cloud tank,
all this kind of stuff. Because at the point during the pre-production, me and Maxime particularly, we was kind of obsessed with the particular the practical effect with the film from the 19th, and we really wanted to put this thing into the film. But all the R&D part was kind of it was hard enough to create something more mainstream, so we just decide to let it go. And
we had a lot less experience in practical effects, so because of time, we couldn't do everything we wanted, but that's the rules of the game.
We also take inspiration from like more independent films, like for example Melancholia, with the scene where the moon just crash into the earth. You can notice like a scene from Watchmen. It wasn't really, I think for me it was a references, but very deep into my head, because when we watched the films with my girlfriend, I was like, oh, okay, it looks really like the head of those films. So I think there's many references that we took for the film.
Sure.
Yes, and also for the visual of the meteorites, we had two main references. It was Andor, the Star Wars series, and I know Quentin, our FX artist, was really inspired by Your Name by Makoto Shinkai for the comets, meteorites.
Definitely a lot of different references there that you guys were using for that.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the sound of the film, there's really no dialogue. There's a few kind of mumbled things between the characters, but no real spoken lines. But a good soundscape of things. Obviously, you've got things crashing, the cars that you were talking about, the sounds of the world. Talk a little bit about how you were able to use the sound to maybe enhance some of those visuals that you had to pare down in terms of what you had the time and budget to do.
Yeah. The sound design was really important for us because, as we said, we didn't have the time to put everything on screen, and even the budget, we didn't have that. So we worked with a sound designer named Benjamin Martin, and it was kind of interesting experience because we never touched the sound. Really, we don't really touch the sound design as a professional. So it was interesting to work with him. He made us discover a different size of the sounds work. And yes, using the sound of the explosion. And at first, we really wanted to make something, a sound design really realistic, to put the audience into the film and to believe in it. And yes, it was important for us, for the narrative way, to make us believe of the story.
Excellent. And there's also some wonderful music in the film that, again, reflects both the serious parts of the story as well as some of the comedy that we talked about earlier. Give a little shout out to whoever did that music for you and how you went about, again, using that to help develop the story.
Well, the music was very important during the writing processes, because when I wrote the speech, I wrote it listening a song named Jusqu'à ce que la force de t'aimer me manque, which means in English, Until I Lack the Strength to Love You, from Catherine Ribeiro plus Alp. She's a famous French singer in the 70s, and I mean the song blew my mind when I listen it at first. It talks about some two people who are so much in love that it became toxic between them, and I don't know why, but I just wrote the pitch listening this song, and the meaning of the song, the first verse of the song was so powerful, and it fits so properly into the story that we really wanted to put it at the end of the film. So during all the year, with the support of the school, we tried to get the copyright of the song to have it, but it was kind of too expensive.
Right.
I mean, we can make it, and so we decided to put our trust in Tito Grama, who was a compositor, and he did an excellent work, and he fit into our attempt.
Yeah, I think he did a very good job blending the first part of the film, which was, if I remember correctly, influenced by Paprika's OST a little bit. It was a huge reference, musically speaking. And the last part of the film, which had to be more dramatic and serious, and he had the hard job to replace this song, which was amazing. So yeah, I think he did a great job, and I think a common aspect between these two parts was the poetic mood he was able to make. So yeah, thanks to Tito.
Thank you, Tito.
For sure. Yes. Now, I mentioned it at the top, but obviously congratulations are in order for being named the gold medalist in the animation category at this year's Student Academy Awards.
Thank you.
That being said, what was your favorite part of the awards event and kind of the other events that you were able to attend in London recently?
Yeah, so for me, it might sound like cliche, but my favorite part was meeting like all the other winners and nominees. Like
Sure.
we were really like a happy little group, and we really bonded and got along. And yeah, and also like the ceremony, I didn't think like I would be emotional, but I was. So it was really special. And the academy actually organized a whole week for us, and we had many special events in London, and they were all very, very nice.
Yeah, I agree, because meeting all these people was amazing, because also they come from many places and cultures, so it was enlightening, you know. We had also the opportunity, thanks to the academy, to meet professionals from the animation industry and even from live action. So yeah, it was very special. I did not think I would meet all those people in my life, so it was great. And yeah, the ceremony itself was amazing. I think I will always remember when we learned that during the ceremony that we won the gold medal. It was an unbelievable surprise. You know, I don't have words to describe this.
For sure.
Yeah, as my friend Tel said, just meeting all the other winners was an amazing experience. We met so many kind and talented people, but also all the professionals that we met. Like, for example, we had the chance to have a dinner with like Trista Oliver, the photograph director of Wes Anderson, on all his animated films. Like, for example, Sarah Smith, founder of Locksmith. And yeah, it was it was an amazing week, and also my first time in London, so it was like a dream, and I can still believe it that all this happened. It was magical.
Yeah, it was hard to come back.
Exactly.
In
Yeah.
France.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't want to come down off that high. Now, are there any festivals or screenings or anything coming up where people will be able to check out the film if they're interested?
This year we should have the film should be in festival during 1 year, but because of the Academy Awards winning, the film will make another year in festival. At the moment, I don't really remember what international festival the film will be, but I know that we have 2 more selections for French festival this month. But yeah, I mean, many people will have the chance to see the film again. But if I'm not wrong, the film will be we can have the chance soonly to see the film on YouTube. If I'm not wrong.
No, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
And also, of course, we have like the actual Academy Awards coming up if we're selected.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yes, of course.
Yeah, so we'll keep our
Yeah.
fingers crossed for that one for sure.
Yes.
Now, I have a couple of questions not specifically related to the film, but before I move on, is there anything else you want to touch on about Au Revoir Mon Monde?
Yeah, I like to say that the production of the film reflects the story of itself. It was a race, and I like to remind myself that we put a lot of sweat and tears to make it happen. You know, the end of production was especially hard. There were a lot of technical issues, and we didn't want to deviate from what we really wanted to tell, but there was also all the problems that we were facing, so it was really hard. But in the end, I think this film has a soul, and yeah, I can say that I'm very proud of what we accomplished, and I think that now the film gives back a lot to us. So
Yes.
yeah, thanks, little film.
And I hope that every person that will have the chance to watch the film will get the message that don't put to tomorrow things you can do right now, and just embrace the people you love, and just listen your heart. And yes, love is everything.
Absolutely. Well, this might be the hardest question I ask, but if you had to pick your top 3 films of all time, what would they be? And I'll let you guys argue over who goes first.
So it is hard. I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I still don't know because it changes all the time, right?
Sure.
But right now, I will say maybe so Memories of Murder by I'm not sure I will say it right, but Bong Joon-ho. And
Yep.
It's hard. Maybe like The Wicker Man, like the old English film. And recently Banshees of Inisherin I really enjoyed. Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's really hard to say, and yeah, like Estelle said, it changes a lot depending of the mood of my mood. So yeah, right now I would say Blade Runner, because I always say Blade Runner for this question for the first film. But I think its mood is amazing, and it will never be equaled, you know. So yeah, I'd like to say also Boogie Nights, because the writing of this film is amazing and the characters are so well written. It blows my mind every time. And recently I saw Boys and the Hood, and I can't stop thinking about how it is simple in its narration, but the strength of its message is amazingly good. So yeah.
And my top 3 films, I would say that I will put Transformers from Michael Bay, because when the film came out, I was like 6, and I'm a big fan of the license since I'm a kid. I used to watch the old cartoon when I went to my grandparents' house, and I mean, this film was the film that made me want to work into the industry, because I was watching the special features, and I was like, oh, okay, so you can just make movies and tell story. And I don't know, even for the technical parts, I mean, I love this film. It's very, how to say that? I love that explosion, big robots, good music. Also, I would say The Place Beyond the Pine from Derek Saint-France. I mean, this film remind me a lot of things about, as I said, for example, all the things with my father that I lost when I was younger. And I really like the mood, the photography, and everything that the thing you can feel from this film. And to finish, I would say the Return of the Kings, from the Lord of the Rings films from Peter Jackson. And because for me, this film is everything you can do for blockbusters. Like you have everything, the good photography, it's epic, it's emotional. The song is amazing. I mean, this is my top 3.
Wonderful. Excellent choices all around. Now, if you can invite any 3 movie characters to your next dinner party, who would they be and why? And maybe for this one, we can each have you do 2 so we can create a 6-person dinner party between the 3 of you.
Oh, okay.
Unless you have 3 ready, then you can drop 3 on me as well.
I only had 2, so that's perfect.
Go for it.
This is really hard as well, I think, but I choose Donkey from Shrek and Po from Kung Fu Panda, even though I feel like maybe we would fight over the food, but I think it would be fun to hang out.
Definitely. 2 good ones.
Yeah, it's a really hard question, but I would say that Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China, just because he's so dumb and he seems so fun to hang out with. So yeah, I think he's good. He would be a good person for dinner, and maybe Puss in Boots, because I think he will set the party on fire. You know,
yes, totally.
Yeah,
and for me, I would say Gandalf. I mean, even if he's a old person, he has a lot of story to tell, and as you can see in the film and read into the book, he likes party. So I think it will be a good choice. And for the 2 other, I will take Gigi and Turk from the TV show Scrubs. I don't know if you know this show.
I do.
And I used to watch them a lot when I was teenager. So I think this is a good duo to make a party with them.
I like that group. It's a eclectic group, and we've got some foodies. We've got a wizard who can bring us some fireworks, and a lot of good folks.
Yes.
Yes. Now, do you guys have any books you could recommend that you've read recently or that you really enjoyed that could be fiction or nonfiction and don't have to be related to movies, and it doesn't have to be any certain number, just whatever you've been reading recently or enjoy?
Okay, so I will start if you don't mind. Sometimes I read sci-fi and I read a lot of sci-fi actually, and I would recommend literature from Philip K. Dick. I think if I have one in mind, it would be The Divine Invasion. And I would also recommend people to read Solaris and 2001, because these stories are mind-blowing, and it's they complete the films, you know. So yeah.
So for me, I recently reread one of my favorite books, which is, I think in English, The Accursed Kings. It's a French series, and it takes place like in the 14th century, and it follows like the downfall of the Capetians, which is one of the biggest French dynasty back then. And yeah, it's really good, and I think it should be readapted into a TV show again. There was one before, but it's very old now, and I feel like it would be the next Game of Thrones or something, to me at least, without magic, just kings.
Recently, I read many books about witchcraft and sorcerer, particularly about French folklore. I can't name every of them, but they was like pretty good actually. I learned many things. But I also read Préférence système from Ugo Bienvenu. This is a comics, and it talks about a future where the data stockage of human knowledge are completely full, and the state has to delete it, but one of them try to stop it. And it's kind of very emotional story, and apparently, if I'm not wrong, the comics will be adapted into an animated TV show, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, very good book.
Wonderful. Well, we'll put some links to some of those in the show notes so people can check them out if they're interested. And lastly, before we wrap up, do you guys have any other projects that you're working on at the moment? And also, where can people follow you on social media to keep tabs on what you're up to?
Yeah, so currently I'm in discussions with with a Parisian studio in which I worked before, so to make a short film. And of course, I would be happy to make it with the team from Revoir Mon Monde. If you guys want to come join me, it would be great. Yeah, I also develop my own story when I have the time, but I'm not really active on my social media. But anyway, you can still follow me on my Instagram at Grenade Bio, and on my LinkedIn, Maxime F.
Right now, I'm focusing on building a better portfolio to find job in the industry, because it's quite hard these days. And for social media, I'm not really active either, but you can find me on Instagram at FatMimi3rd, and on LinkedIn with my name, Estelle Bonnardel. And I always answer DMs.
For me, I'm trying actually to find a job, and like Estelle, I'm building a better portfolio and demo reel. But also I'm trying to work on different screenplay and pitches, particularly with one signed 1 year. And I really hope that the project will see the light of the day. I'm crossing the finger, but I'm kind of optimistic for the future. I mean, because of the price we had. And also my social media is on Instagram, Wolf. You can also find me with the other pseudonym Flomo. And you can find my LinkedIn, which is Florian Maurice.
Wonderful. We'll put links to those accounts in there and tag them when the episode comes out. Thank you so much for the time today, the three of you. I really appreciate all of you coming on and sharing your film with me and getting to hear some of the stories about went into its creation.
Thank you to you.
Yeah, thank you.
It was our pleasure.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you again to my guests today, Florian Maurice, Maxime Foltzer, and Estelle Bonnardel. Their short film, Revoir Mon Monde, was a gold winner at the 2024 Student Academy Awards. Before I wrap things up, I want to touch briefly on the next Academy event this weekend, the Governor's Awards. This year, Quincy Jones and Juliet Taylor will receive honorary awards, Richard Curtis will be presented with the Jean Herschel Humanitarian Award, and producers Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli will receive the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award. Jones needs no introduction and sadly passed away recently at the age of 91. He may be best known for his work with Michael Jackson, but was a 7-time Oscar nominee and also received the Jean Herschel Award himself in 1994. He even served as the musical director for the 43rd Academy Awards back in 1971. Juliet Taylor is an Emmy Award-winning casting director who first worked on William Friedkin's The Exorcist, and also gave Meryl Streep her first film role. She has cast over 100 films and worked with directors including Nora Ephron, Martin Scorsese, and Steven Spielberg. Richard Curtis is known for directing romantic comedies including 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Notting Hill, Bridget Jones' Diary, and Love Actually. The British charity Comic Relief that he co-founded with comedian Letty Henry has raised over £1 billion to help children around the world over its 40-year history. Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli are the producing team behind the beloved James Bond franchise and have produced the last 9 Bond films. They took over the franchise from their father, Albert Broccoli, in 1995 and saw their most recent installment, No Time to Die, win an Oscar for Best Original Song. The Governor's Awards take place this Sunday, November 17th, and are sadly not broadcast, but the speeches are traditionally available on the Academy's YouTube channel soon after. Head over to youtube.com/@Oscars for more. The Oscar Project podcast is written and produced by me, Jonathan Eacherberg, with editing assistance from Joshua Eacherberg. If you want more movie coverage, check out the Oscar Project on Substack at theoscarproject.substack.com, and be sure to come back for my next episode where I will be speaking with Aaron Johnson, director of the short film The 17%. Until then, I hope to see you at the movies.